Dear students, good morning. Today we are going to discuss about disaccharides, polysaccharides, and the introduction part of proteins. So last class we completed two important monosaccharides. They are glucose as well as fructose. So today we start disaccharide. So as we already studied, a disaccharide is one of the carbohydrates will provide two monosaccharides during the hydrolysis. Why we have to call this as a disaccharide? Provides two monosaccharides during the hydrolysis process. So usually we will do hydrolysis by what? By taking dilute acids or else enzymes. So the enzyme invertase can be taken or else dilute acids can be taken for the hydrolysis of disaccharide that will provide two monosaccharide units. What is the general formula for monosaccharide? Yesterday we studied CnH2O n times. For disaccharide, the general formula is CnH2O n minus 1. This is one more question. Next, in disaccharide, two monosaccharide units will be there so that it provides two monosaccharides during hydrolysis. We can take an example. Take this sucrose. So sucrose is an example of disaccharide. It has two monosaccharide units. This is first monosaccharide unit and this is second monosaccharide unit. So that only sucrose provides two monosaccharides during hydrolysis. Now the question is, which is holding the two monosaccharides in a disaccharide? Why two monosaccharides present as a single entity in a disaccharide? The answer is oxide linkage or glycosidic linkage. Important. Two more questions. What is glycosidic linkage or oxide linkage? If you take disaccharide or trisaccharide or polysaccharide, between the monosaccharides there will be a bonding. There will be a linkage. We call it as oxide linkage or glycosidic linkage. So this linkage is called a oxide or glycosidic linkage. How this linkage is formed? So this glycosidic linkage is formed between carbon of one monosaccharide unit and OH group of another monosaccharide unit. So this is the general trend. Carbon of one monosaccharide and OH group of another monosaccharide will make a linkage. We call it as glycosidic linkage. So this is a two more question. So in disaccharide, two monosaccharide units are linked by oxide linkage or glycosidic linkage. This is due to the bonding between the anomeric carbon of one monosaccharide unit and the hydroxyl group of another monosaccharide unit. So this is a glycosidic linkage. Next, we have many examples for disaccharide like sucrose, lactose, maltose. All these are all examples of disaccharide. So during hydrolysis, they will provide two monosaccharide units. So one by one we will discuss. First, sucrose. As we know, this is called as table sugar, the normal sugar which we use in our day-to-day life. Its abundance is must. Sucrose or simply sugar is having more abundance and this is obtained from the sugar cane. So mostly from the juice of sugar cane as well as sugar beets we get sucrose. Then if you take a honey, sucrose is present along with glucose as well as fructose. So in honey you will have a mixture of glucose, fructose as well as sucrose. So sucrose is an example of a disaccharide. When we do hydrolysis process, this will provide two monosaccharide units. So we do hydrolysis. Sucrose provides glucose as well as fructose. As I told already, hydrolysis can be done by taking dilute acids like sulfuric acid or else we can take enzyme. So invertase enzyme converts sucrose into glucose and fructose. Now this enzyme invertase is present in the honey bee. One more question. So honey bee has enzyme invertase which is responsible for the hydrolysis of sucrose to provide glucose and fructose. Next important one marker. Sucrose is an invert sugar. Yesterday we studied invert sugar contains equal amount of glucose and fructose. So if you take a sucrose which has 50% glucose and fructose, so this is an example of invert sugar. right? Next, what about optical activity? So as we studied yesterday, glucose is a dextroisomer, dextrorotatory. Fructose is a levoisomer, levorotatory. Isn't it? Yesterday we studied. Now the sucrose is dextroisomer. 1 mark. What about the optical activity of disaccharide sucrose? Like glucose, sucrose is also dextrorotatory plus isomer. Glucose dextrorotatory, but fructose alone levorotatory. And for glucose and fructose, yesterday we studied a specific rotation. Specific rotation is nothing but at what angle the molecule is rotating the plane polarized light. For glucose, we studied that 53 degree as a specific rotation. For fructose, we studied minus 92 degree because it is levorotatory. So that we use minus 92 degree. Now, in this topic, the exact value is given for glucose plus 52.5 degree, for fructose minus 92.4 degree. Now what about sucrose? This is also dextrorotatory. So it has a plus 66.6 degree as a specific rotation. So all these are 1 more questions. What is a specific rotation of glucose, fructose and sucrose? Next, during the hydrolysis process, what happens to the optical activity? So you have a mixture. The optical activity of the mixture is dextrorotatory, means during the hydrolysis process, it will be changed into levorotatory. 1 more question. So we have covered many important aspects in this. Next, we move into the structure of sucrose. Right. So hydrolysis, specific rotation value, optical activity, all we have discussed. Next, structure. So as I told, a disaccharide will have 2 monosaccharide units linked by glycosidic linkage or oxide linkage. Now in sucrose, 1 monosaccharide unit is alpha D glucose, another monosaccharide unit is beta D fructose. 1 mark. Okay. So we have a glucose and fructose in sucrose. They are joined by oxide bridge. The glucose has what configuration? D, alpha D glucose. Usually we use notation alpha beta for epimers, isn't it? Compounds with the same molecular formula but different configuration at asymmetric center. So alpha D glucose is the monosaccharide and beta D fructose is the another monosaccharide. So these two are joined together by a glycosidic linkage. Now we are going to name the linkage. The linkage is what type of linkage? Now consider the glycosidic linkage is formed by carbonyl carbon of glucose. So first molecule is glucose. This is carbonyl carbon, first carbon, because aldehyde group is always present at the end of the chain. What is the functional group in glucose? Aldehyde will be present at the end. So first carbon. So this first carbon is the carbonyl carbon or carbon of aldehyde group is making a bond with second carbon of fructose, because fructose contains functional group ketone. Ketone is in the second position of fructose. So now the linkage is between first carbon of glucose and the second carbon of fructose. So the linkage is called alpha 1,2 glycosidic linkage. Important 1 mark. Okay. So if you take a sucrose, we have alpha D glucose and the beta D fructose. They are linked by glycosidic linkage. Carbonyl carbon of glucose and the carbonyl carbon of fructose are joined together. Their positions are in glucose first position, in fructose second position. So first carbon of glucose and the second carbon of fructose joined by means of glycosidic linkage. So this linkage is called as what? Alpha 1,2 glycosidic linkage. Next important 1 mark. What are the reducing groups in a compound? Usually what are reducing groups? Carbonyl groups. Aldehyde and ketone are the reducing groups, right? So when you take the sucrose, the carbonyl carbon of glucose and the carbonyl carbon of fructose both are combined together by a glycosidic linkage. So both the reducing groups are involved in bonding. So this is called a non-reducing sugar. A repeated public 1 mark. Okay. So what is non-reducing sugar? If both the carbonyl groups are involved in bonding, so this is called non-reducing sugar. So reducing nature will not be retained. Reducing nature is destroyed. It does not have carbonyl nature. So both the carbonyl groups are involved in glycosidic linkage. So this is an example of non-reducing sugar. With this, sucrose is over. We take another disaccharide. This is lactose. As we know, the disaccharide lactose is obtained from the milk. So this is also called as milk sugar. And what are the components in the lactose? As usual, we have two monosaccharide units. One is both are similar, beta D glucose, right? So both the monosaccharides are beta D glucose. Okay. Between the monosaccharide units, we have oxide bridge or glycosidic linkage. So lactose is a disaccharide which is present in the milk, so that which is called as milk sugar. You change this name, it's not a glucose, galactose. Okay. So in book, you can change it if you are using the old book, galactose. Okay. So lactose is obtained from the milk, so this is called the milk sugar. During the hydrolysis, it provides two monosaccharide units. What are they? Beta D galactose and beta D glucose. First one is galactose, second monosaccharide unit is glucose. So between the galactose and the glucose, there is an oxide bridge. Now this is belonging to what type of bridge? First carbon of galactose is combining with fourth carbon of glucose. You have to be very careful. One more question. So what is the first carbon in the glucose? This one. This carbonyl carbon is the first carbon. This is number 2, number 3. This is number 4. So first carbon of galactose is linked with fourth carbon of glucose. So this linkage is called 1,4 glycosidic linkage, and both the monosaccharides are beta D type, beta D configuration, beta D galactose and beta D glucose. So this is called beta 1,4 glycosidic linkage, right? And what about the reducing nature? Is it a reducing sugar or non-reducing sugar? This is an important 1 mark, reducing sugar. Why? Carbonyl carbon of first monosaccharide unit, galactose, is involved in glycosidic linkage, but carbonyl carbon of second monosaccharide unit, glucose, is not involved in glycosidic bond. So reducing nature is retained here. The reducing property will be retained. So this is an example of reducing sugar. Sucrose is an example of non-reducing sugar. Lactose is an example of reducing sugar. With this lactose over, we take third example of disaccharide, maltose. So this disaccharide is obtained from the malt, and we know that malt is a substance derived from the barley. So since it is obtained from the malt, we call the carbohydrate as maltose, and during hydrolysis it provides two monosaccharide units. So the monosaccharides are alpha D glucose and alpha D glucose. So both the monosaccharide units are similar. So during the hydrolysis of maltose, we get two glucose units. To take first alpha D glucose and the second alpha D glucose, between the glucose units we have an oxide bridge, right? Now this is belonging to what type of bridge? First carbon of alpha D glucose, fourth carbon of another monosaccharide unit alpha D glucose joined together to make glycosidic linkage. So this is 1,4 glycosidic linkage. Like lactose, first carbon of first monosaccharide unit, fourth carbon of second monosaccharide unit linked by glycosidic linkage. So this is 1,4 glycosidic linkage. Both the monosaccharides are having the notation alpha D. So this is called alpha 1,4 glycosidic linkage. And maltose can also be prepared by digestion of food. When we take food, example starch, the food starch can be digested by an enzyme called alpha amylase. One mark. So alpha amylase enzyme is used for digesting the starch. During that, maltose is obtained. So maltose can be derived from malt, as well as during the digestion of starch by the enzyme alpha amylase we get maltose. So this is the disaccharide. During hydrolysis, it provides two molecules of alpha D glucose. Between the glucose units, we have alpha 1,4 glycosidic linkage. What about reducing nature? Is it a reducing sugar or non-reducing sugar? It is a reducing sugar, because carbonyl carbon of one monosaccharide unit is involved in bonding, but carbonyl carbon of another monosaccharide unit is not involved in bonding. So this is retained. Reducing group or property is retained. So this is an example of reducing sugar. So we have completed 3 disaccharides: sucrose, lactose, and maltose. Then we move into polysaccharides. From the name, we can easily identify that more number of monosaccharide units will be present in the polysaccharide. We already studied the formula: C6H10O5 n times. So subscript value n. So more number of monosaccharide units will be linked together by a glycosidic linkage. So we get polysaccharide. So this is like a polymer. More number of monosaccharide units linked by oxide bridge or glycosidic bridge. If you take polysaccharide, they are not sweet in taste. So generally polysaccharides are called non-sugars, right? If you take a starch, cellulose, they are not sweet in taste. So we call polysaccharides as non-sugars. In polysaccharides, we have a straight chain as well as a branched chain. So monosaccharides are extending in linear way as well as sidewise way. So we have a both branch as well as a straight chain in the polysaccharide structure. Then we can classify the polysaccharide into two types: homopolysaccharide and heteropolysaccharide. Homopolysaccharide means same type of monosaccharides will be there. If you take a polysaccharide, for example starch or cellulose, glycogen, so in all these polysaccharides, same type of monosaccharide, glucose will be there. Glucose units are joined together by glycosidic linkage, we get a polysaccharide. Heteropolysaccharide means more than one type of monosaccharide will be there. For example, heparin or hyaluronic acid. So all these are all example of heteropolysaccharides. So this is a classification of polysaccharide. First we take starch. So starch is one of the homopolysaccharides. The starch is present in most of the food items like rice, wheat, potato, corn, and so on. And in the starch, the monosaccharide unit, as I told already, glucose. So the simple monosaccharide glucose will extend to a long distance. So we get a chain of glucose by a glycosidic linkage. So this is called a starch, right? So between the glucose units, we will have what type of glycosidic linkage? 1,4 glycosidic linkage will be there, and the starch have two fractions. So there will be two fractions in the starch. One is amylose, another one is amylopectin. Okay, so two units or fractions are in the starch. One is amylose, another one is amylopectin. So this is mainly based on the solubility. If you take amylose, this unit amylose is soluble in water. Amylopectin is generally insoluble in water. In starch, around 20% amylose part will be there. 80% amylopectin part will be there. So starch is having two fractions, amylose and amylopectin. Amylose water soluble and having 20 percentage contribution, amylopectin water insoluble and 80 percentage will be in starch. Next, what is the difference between the amylase and amylopectin? As I told, the solubility is different. Next one, the arrangement of monosaccharide, how the glucose units are arranged, that will be different. If you take amylose, all the monosaccharide units are arranged in a linear way. So this is a straight chain arrangement of monosaccharide units by 1,4 glycosidic linkage. Alpha 1,4 glycosidic linkage is present between the monosaccharide units. So straight chain arrangement, maximum 4,000 glucose units will be present in the amylose. Maximum 4,000, 1 mark. And amylopectin is contrast to this. Amylopectin has a straight chain as well as branched chain. Take this one. In amylopectin, the monosaccharides are arranged in a straight chain as well as we observe a branched chain also. Okay. So next one more question. Maximum 10,000 glucose units will be in a chain. So when you take amylopectin, maximum number of monosaccharide units will be what? 10,000. Okay. Then regarding the branch, for every 24 to 30 monosaccharide unit, one branch will be there. For example, if 500 glucose units are joined together in a straight chain, means for every 24 to 30 monosaccharide unit, one branch will be there. In branch also, glucose units are joined by glycosidic bond. Next one more question. In branches, the glycosidic linkage will be 1,6 alpha 1,6 glycosidic linkage. So now you have to know the difference. So starch is a polysaccharide and in which two fractions are there, amylose and amylopectin. Glucose units are arranged in a linear way. If you take amylose, maximum 4,000 glucose units can be arranged in a linear way by alpha 1,4 glycosidic linkage. If you take amylopectin, maximum 10,000 monosaccharide units can be present. For every 24 to 30 monosaccharide unit, one branch will be there. In a straight chain, glycosidic linkage is alpha 1,4 glycosidic linkage. In branched chain, the linkage between the glucose will be alpha 1,6 glycosidic linkage. Important 1 mark. Then how can you identify the amylose and amylopectin? For that we can add iodine solution, right? So this test we already studied in lower classes. With the starch, when we add iodine solution, we will get a blue color. So we add a iodine solution with amylose, it gives blue color. Amylopectin will give purple color. 1 more question. So with this we complete a polysaccharide starch. We move into the next polysaccharide. It's called a cellulose. As we know, cellulose is a major component of plants, right? So trees are having what? Cellulose. So this component is responsible for the plant cell wall, and this polysaccharide cellulose is made by the monosaccharide glucose. So beta D glucose. So here what is a monosaccharide unit? Beta D glucose will be linked together by 1,4 glycosidic bridge in a linear way. So cellulose is having what type of arrangement? Beta D glucose monosaccharide units are linked by beta 1,4 glycosidic linkage in a linear way. So straight chain arrangement, right? And the cellulose has many applications. So cellulose are used for preparing the paper, then in the field of textile industry for making fibers, then for making explosives like rayon explosives. And one more question, gun cotton. Gun cotton is prepared from cellulose. So nitrated ester of cellulose is nothing but gun cotton. So all these are applications of cellulose. We take starch as a food. At the same time, we are not taking cellulose as food. What is the reason? If you take a polysaccharide cellulose, it has to be digested. It has to be hydrolyzed by an enzyme. The enzyme will be cellulase or glycosidase. That enzyme is not available in the human body. We don't have the enzyme to digest or hydrolyze the cellulose, so that we are not taking cellulose as a food item. So with this, we complete second polysaccharide. We move into the third polysaccharide, glycogen. So this is the polysaccharide present in the animals. So this is called animal starch. Okay, one more. What is animal starch? Animal starch means glycogen. This polysaccharide is present in the liver as well as muscles of animals. So when we do hydrolysis process, it provides monosaccharide glucose. So glucose monosaccharide units are present by glycosidic linkage. All these are linked by glycosidic linkage. We get a glycogen. The structure will be similar with amylopectin. The glycogen structure is similar with amylopectin. It has a straight chain as well as a branched chain. Important one mark. What is the difference between amylopectin and glycogen polysaccharide? In amylopectin, we have a straight chain and a branched chain. For every 24 to 30 monosaccharide unit, glucose unit, we will have a branch. But in glycogen, for every 8 to 14 monosaccharide unit glucose, we will have a branch. This is the important difference between the amylopectin and the glycogen. For every 8 to 14 glucose units, monosaccharide units, there will be one branch, right? So in our human body, we have a glycogen. If you have excess of glucose will be stored in the human body in the form of glycogen. So with this, we complete polysaccharides. So yesterday we completed monosaccharides, glucose and fructose. Today we have completed disaccharides, maltose, lactose and sucrose. We have completed 3 polysaccharides: starch, cellulose as well as glycogen. Then what are the importance of carbohydrates? As we told, carbohydrate is a main source of energy. We get energy from the carbohydrate. Carbohydrate provides energy for human body. Then in animals, carbohydrates are present in the form of what? Glycogen. Then if you take cellulose is used in many industry like paper industry, then textile industry for making cotton, then in the field of wood industry to make furnitures. So cellulose is used in many industries. And if you take glucose, the simplest form of carbohydrate, will give energy instantly. Then ribose sugar is a carbohydrate which is present in the nucleic acids. Then we have some modified carbohydrates like glycosaminoglycans. They are called hyaluronate. This is acting as a lubricant as well as shock absorber. So these are all the importance of carbohydrates. A public 5-mark question. So with this, we complete first biomolecule in the lesson, carbohydrate. As I told in the introduction part, we have 4 important biomolecules: carbohydrates, proteins, lipids and nucleic acids. First biomolecule, carbohydrate, is completed. Next we move into what? Proteins. Proteins are the polymers of alpha amino acids. Like a carbohydrate, alpha amino acids are joined together by a peptide bond. It produces a macromolecule. We get a polymer called proteins. So proteins is very essential and which is having more abundance in human body as well as plants. So this is an important biomolecule for living organisms. The word protein is derived from Greek language. In Greek language, proteus means primary or holding first place. So this is having a major function. This is having a primary function in living beings, so that the word protein is obtained from the Greek language proteus. And since it is a polymer of alpha amino acid, we are going to study the arrangement of alpha amino acids, right? Amino acid is an organic compound containing 2 functional groups. What are the functional group? Amino group and carboxylic acid group. Why we call this as alpha amino acids? Because amino group is bonded with alpha carbon. The carbon adjacent to the functional group is called what? Alpha carbon. So this amino acid is called what? Alpha amino acids. Many amino acids are available. we use 20 common amino acids. We observe 20 common amino acids present in the protein molecules. Then amino acids can be denoted by 3-letter code as well as 1-letter code. For example, if you can take glycine. Okay, so this is an amino acid, glycine. Instead of writing the full name glycine, we can take first 3 letters GLY, right? So GLY is the way of representing the amino acid glycine. So this is called a 3-letter code. Instead of 3-letter code, we can use 1-letter code. 1-letter code means first letter can be taken. Capital G means it represents glycine. The amino acid glycine is represented by a 1-letter code, capital G. In the same way, another examples, you take alanine, first 3 letters ALA, 3-letter code, or capital A alone, alanine, 1-letter code. Next, valine, VAL, 3-letter code, capital V, 1-letter code. So an amino acid can be represented by a 3-letter code or 1-letter code. Next, how we can classify the amino acids? Amino acids can be classified based on the properties. For example, if the nature of amino acid is acid or base or neutral, we have classified it into 3 types: acidic amino acids, basic amino acids, and neutral amino acids. Then, based on solubility, whether it is hydrophilic or hydrophobic in nature, it attracts water or it repels water. Based on that, we have amino acids as polar amino acids and non-polar amino acids. Polar means hydrophilic. Non-polar amino acid means hydrophobic, water hating nature. Okay. So next classification is based on the synthesis. It's called the essential amino acid and a non-essential amino acid. This is third classification. So some amino acids are synthesized in human body. Right? We synthesize some amino acids. We call them as non-essential amino acids. One more question. So the amino acids synthesized by human body is called non-essential amino acids. Some amino acids will be taken from food. From food items, we take some amino acids. It is called essential amino acids. Right? So this is the another classification. So totally we have 3 classifications. One is based on nature, acidic, basic, neutral. Another one, polar, non-polar. Third one is essential and non-essential amino acids. Right? And as I told, 20 common amino acids are there. Except this 20, many amino acids are also present. We call them as non-protein amino acids. Examples are ornithine as well as citrulline. So these are all non-protein amino acids. They are less common in nature. Okay. So with this, today's class over. Tomorrow we start properties of amino acids. Thank you.